Have you ever wondered how you can get that film look in all your footage? How you can do it fast, efficiently, how you can speed up your own creative workflow, even just using this as your one-stop shop for color grading. Dehancer does that and more. And in this video, I'm going to review the whole plugin, every single feature, the things that I use the most, how this has increased my productivity in my color grading workflow. Because let me tell you, okay, I'm a huge procrastinator. If I could just play games all day, like Valorant, even just watch anime all day, just sit on the couch, binge, I will do that. If there's any tool that I can find, anything that can make my life easier, I will go out and find it. And so the team at Dehancer has sent me their plugin. I really wanted to review this tool, and so thank you, Dehancer team, for allowing me to do so. And just a disclaimer, okay, they're not paying me for this video. They sent me the tool to review, but I'm free to express my own opinions. So all the things that I love about it, but also the things that I think could be improved upon. Got a project set up in DaVinci Resolve. I have 3 clips here. I have one from my A7 III. This is going to be an Slog 2. And then I also have one from my DJI Pocket 3. Okay. And then there's also one from my iPhone 16 Pro Max. So I'm going to show you just how I set up my node trees. I'm not a professional colorist by any means. But I've learned a few things over the past few years, and everything that I've kind of learned is like a big soup bowl of different information that I've watched on YouTube, meshed together for my own creative workflow. You don't have to follow what I do by bond, by word. It's just different things that I've picked up that works for me. And that's how I think you should approach your own color grading workflow as well. What works for you? What makes sense to you? Moving forward, let's keep that in mind, okay? All right, so we're gonna use 7 nodes. And the first node, okay, this is how I like to set it up. The first node, we're going to do a color space transform. And we're going to just do this because we want to set up our color space. I'm actually using the Sony S Gamut 3 Cine. That's what I'm using in my camera for my S-Log 2 footage. So I'm going to choose that. Input gamma, S-Log 2. And now for the output color space, we're going to use DaVinci Wide Gamut. All right. This is going to just kind of put everything to this one. Our second color space transform node, okay, we put this on the 6th one. Now we're going to take that same DaVinci Wide Gamut, that color space, and then it's going to convert it to Rec 709 because that is the standard, as people like to say. I'm going to use Gamma 2.4. This is what the footage was before. Now I converted it. Boom. This is kind of how I like to do things. My white balance, exposures, contrast. After the contrast, I like to do saturation. All right, so I'm just going to quickly label my nodes. We got that cleaned up. We got everything labeled. Here we go with the exposure. We're just going to make like incremental changes. I don't want to go too crazy. I'm going to drop the light just a little bit here. A shadow, I'm going to lift that up. So same with the darks, brighten that up. Okay. Now for the white balance, yeah, I'm going to go to my primaries here, and then I'm just going to equalize everything. See the bars on the waveform? I kind of just get it so that they're all pretty equal. Another thing you can do is actually go to the vector scope, okay? And people like doing this as well. And if it's too small for you, you can do the show 2 times zoom. So you look at this line here, you kind of line it up there, like so, and then just move it and drag it until you feel that looks pretty balanced, and boom. So what does that look like? I think that looks pretty balanced. In my eyes, that looks good. Okay, now we're going to do contrast. So the way that I deal with contrast is I actually use the curve graph here. And what we're going to do is actually, we're just going to make 2 points, all right here. And I'm just going to deepen this a little bit. And then this right here, I'm going to lift this up. So you can see the image gets a little bit more brighter. Yeah, so that's a contrast. All right, so saturation. Here's another trick that I've learned, or one thing that I've learned for doing the saturation and like a little bit more of an effective way to do it is if you go to the color space, we're going to change it to HSV. Hue, saturation. I forgot what the V means. Okay, see, I'm telling you, I just know things, but like, do I know it to the full extent? No, but I just know that it works. And then we're gonna go to channels, I believe, and we're gonna take off channel 1, check off channel 3, and now we just leave channel 2 on. Why? I forget why, but it works. Now I'm gonna go into my primaries. I'm gonna increase the gain here, and you're gonna see that the colors get a little bit more deeper. And even in the vector scope, you see it kind of like widens a bit. And then since we're adding that gain there, we're gonna take the gamma back just a smidge, just to kind of balance that out. And if I turn this on and off, just helps deepen some of those colors like ever so slightly there. And yeah, so far, let's see how that looks. Okay. Boom, boom. Now we're gonna add Dehancer. Now let's get into it. Dehancer Pro 7.2.1. Dehancer it could feel a little overwhelming when you first put it onto your footage. Okay. And so one of the things that I like to do that I've learned as well is if you hold Option and click it on one of these things here, boom, you can collapse everything. That way, you just save yourself from a headache of like being so overwhelmed by each thing that is opened. And another thing that I like to use is the monitor here. So this thing has a clipping indication. And see, right now, you can see that I am clipping the dark, like the blacks on my footage. So what does that tell me? I got to go to my contrast a little bit, and I just got to tweak it slightly so that it's not clipping. That's probably like one of the most useful things that I've found with the Dehancer plugin is this clipping indication. And one of the other options that I like to do as well is disable all tools. Okay. So when you do that, everything's disabled and you can enable whatever you want as you kind of work along with your footage. The first little option here, input. This is where you can set your camera source and your color space. Right now, my source is Rec 709 and we can use that. Okay, I think that's fine. But if you did want to, you can go choose your camera. You can go, for example, our case, we have Sony, and there's a bunch of different camera options in here. So really well done. They have so many options for you. So hopefully you can find it. Slog 3, S-Gamut 3, Cine. But right now I'm going to do Rec 709 because that is what works. And the way that this plugin works is that everything is controlled by sliders. And I kind of love that because you can get really granular with your control and it's just easy. For example, you got exposure comps. You can increase exposures if you want. You can change your temperatures and there's a tint. So you can change that as well. I don't really use defringe and the defringe radius as much. I don't really see a difference whenever I enable it. Now we're going to kind of work with film and print. One of the things that helped me choose one of the film stock profiles was looking up one of my favorite movies. My all-time favorite Batman movie, Batman: The Dark Knight Rises. I love that movie so much. And sure enough, okay, there was a website that I found, and right here on Shot on What, okay, so this website you can find your own films that you want, and then you can search it up, and it'll tell you what film stock it was shot on. Kodak Vision 3 500T, that is the one that I gravitated towards the most inside of Dehancer. And so I guess I just really liked the look so much that, hey, that's the one I started using. T stands for tungsten, and then D is for daylight. And so you can kind of just see the different ones as you scroll through here. I'm just going to use the Kodak Vision 3 500T and call it a day. And there's this push-pull slider, really neat. You can actually get so many different looks just with the slider and using a different film stock. Okay, so that's film. And then we're going to look at print really quick. Ooh, okay, so I'm going to enable this. Fun fact, just for everyone that is watching this right now, you're going to see a lot of these values already applied because I just spent the last 30 minutes recording and then my SD card ran out of memory. And I realized when I was looking at my monitor, I was like, wait, I'm not recording. How much of my footage did I just lose? And it turns out I went through almost every single one of these and I lost it. Let's talk about print. Okay, so everyone's favorite Kodak 23A3 print film. That's probably the one I'm going to default to here, and I think that's what I used before. But there's also this Endura glossy paper. That's quite nice. There's like a Fujifilm one. I really like the tint on that. There's a Cineon film log, and that just makes it to like a log look, and that's really flat, so we're not going to use it. Linear. Oh, okay, it adds a little bit more contrast, so you can use that one. But for example's sake, I'm going to use this. This is what I went with. There's also like an analog range limiter, and I think that just kind of evens it out a little bit so that it's not totally crushed on the look. We're going to go into Film Developer here, and I'm going to hit Enable, and you're not going to see too much going on right now because when I'm using this Dehancer plugin, I don't like to push things too far. I'm already working with 8-bit footage. If I push it too far, it's just not going to work, and it can get damaged. So there's gamma correction here. There's also color separation. You don't really see anything moving right now. But I think before I like kept it at 0 because it like before it was being weird. It was like muting the colors out before, but I don't see it doing it here. And then there's color boost. That's just like the richness of it. And so that gives a little bit more density. So film compression, bringing all your white points towards your midpoint. And so you'll see it even on my waveform here. Just watch this. When I move this around, see it's like bringing it down more. And you'll see like this highlighted area here, like you can see it gets a little bit more hot. The more I drag it to the left, and if I drag it to the right, it kind of softens it out. So I kind of liked it right here. And then the impact slider, think of this as strength of the effect, tonal range, kind of just like all around, all encompassing of the white points here. You can see it's kind of affecting more of the image in the waveform. And so that's okay. Color density, I don't want to go too far because I already added some color boost, but it does add a little bit more richness if I just do a little bit more in there. 69. And so what does this look like on and off? And so you can see those highlights just kind of get softened up and compressed. So doing exactly what it says it does. All right, so expand. Okay, so how do I like to explain this? You can make the blacks darker and then the whites a little bit more brighter, really simply. And so you can see here, it can get crushed a bit more. I don't want to go too far. You can start losing some detail, and I don't want to lose too much of that detail. I can actually bring it back up a little bit. And then the white points, yeah, to a point where like I like staying around the confines of like these lines over here so that it's not pushed too far. Color head. So this is pretty cool. With color head, you can really dial in the colors of your look. And once I enable this, you could see that I've got a little bit more of a tint, and there's less magenta in the color. There's more greens that I brought in for green. Seeing how you can move these sliders around, this is what it's doing. So it's like the yellows and blues. I'm going to take this back a bit, just like that. The magentas and greens, I'm affecting it there. Cyan and red, you know, the more left, the more cyan. Go right, more red. If you hit gang, what it does is you can use, you can kind of just lock it together and change it together for one side to the other. But for this purpose, I'm going to just take that off. I'm going to reset. I'm going to do what I was doing earlier. Now you can really control the shadows as well. You can make it warmer or cooler, midtones. Again, warmer or cooler. I feel like that's like the general consensus here. It's like warm or cool, whichever side you want to. And yeah, impact, again, that's like a strength slider. And you can also preserve like the exposure as well a bit. But I kind of just leave those two as is. All right, so now there is film grain. The Dehancer film grain is actually really well done. This is actually natural grain that was like scanned from real footage, shot on film, and they've done this, and they've added like so many different types here, and you can customize this like crazy. Okay, so like let's say 8mm ISO 50. Basically, this ISO number is like how strong it is. So if you go 50, that's how it is. If you go like 500, you can see like crazy amounts of film grain. But even then, you can dial it back even further. So much customization on this. I think I like to go around like the 35mm grain range, and then add just a smidge of it because it can get pretty distracting, I think. And so I don't like that too much. And sometimes I just kind of want the clean look, but still getting like the film look overall. So yeah, you can just add that, and you can see right there, adds a little bit of film grain, pretty nice. Makes it feel like it's shot on film. There's also film damage. As you can see, when I turn this on, you're gonna see some dust and scratches, you know, emulating real film here. And if I can increase the amount, and you can see it's just kind of going crazy here. The thing is with the film damage is that it almost feels, I think it's procedural. So not one frame is ever the same. So you might get like some unwanted film damage on areas that you just don't want it to be on, and you can't control that. So just something to take note of. I don't really use this too much, so I kind of leave it off. Here's film breath. It's like your footage is like breathing, and you'll see it more so in the colors itself. So like look at my laptop here, and then you can see like flickering, right? It's kind of cool because like some films that you've watched or seen, it kind of has that breathing aspect to it inside of it that in the recording. This is kind of the extreme case, but like, you know, you can play with the strength, and I don't use it too much, but it can be cool. It could be another like characteristic inside of your grading process if you want to use it. So I'm just going to leave it off for now. Everyone's favorite tools to get cinematic footage. Halation and Bloom. And actually, I really like these tools. I often find myself using the Dehancer Halation and Bloom more than the native one inside of DaVinci Resolve. Let's talk about Halation first. What's really cool is, man, I just love how much control you get out of this. Let's go into the mask mode. And you can see here, everything's highlighted, the areas that are being affected by the halation. And you can see if I just max it out, boom, there are the edges. If I disable mask mode, you'll see that there it is. There is the halation right on, let's say, my ball head mount here. That's the area that's being affected. And then there's the different ranges you can go through. So it's like less strong the higher you go in the millimeter range, and then stronger in the 8, like from 8 to 16. And so you don't want it to be too distracting. So I kind of just give it just enough. You want this to just kind of feel natural. It has to be a feeling. Like halation, you don't want it to be too blown out so that it's so like that you're just, oh my gosh, I see halation. It's there. I just think that halation will have more of an effect in the way that you feel it rather than the way that you see it. I think like around here is good. So I'm gonna just leave it like right there. And for Bloom, it just makes your footage look dreamy. I kind of like that. And you'll see like the highlights, there's this glow to the highlights that it gives. The lower millimeter range, the stronger it is. And then you could just see, yeah, as you add it in, kind of gives it that nice dreamy look as if there's like some haze and stuff like that. And if I go to the mask mode, again, you'll see those areas affected. When you go to like the higher range and like you increase it, it's a little bit more defined, but I kind of like it here because it's a little bit more softer. Go to your taste. Go to what feels right to you. Too much can be too distracting again. So I'll go around here and I think that's pretty nice. There's also gate weave. Gate weave is kind of cool. It adds a little bit of like some shakiness to your footage. So if I go to like 8mm Super 8, like 100% impact, like look at this. It just super shaky, less shaky when the higher you go. So that's basically what it does. So with the film breath, Overscan, I don't really use these tools too much, so I'm just going to quickly breeze through them. Overscan, so here it is. Okay, so as if you were actually making this on film, this is what it's going to show up. And there's so much customization on this. Like it's actually kind of crazy. You can control the exposures of this, the scale of the film itself, the lens zoom even. You can do the offsets. There's like a gate defocus. You could turn off the perforation. And then you can go like super 8mm or super 35mm. And then now you get this neat like frame border. And so if you're doing stuff for like social media and content, or even just like a specific thing for your videos, you can actually use this. There's Vignette here. You can control like around the edges here, just kind of focus in on like the focus point. So if I turn down the feather, you could see here, it adds this like shadow, okay, on the edges. And then when you feather it out, that way you can hone in and just whatever your subject or focus is, you can do that. Right here is just the clipping information. Again, like I told you in the beginning, monitor. So now there's output, and what's really cool is that you can actually control how much of the whole effect entirely affects your image. So if you go 0, this is normal as it is. And then if you go 100%, there's the grade. And so boom, a film look. There's like this LUT generator here. I haven't used this, but I believe you can like create your own LUTs with the film look that you've created. And then options is, yeah, like you saw this earlier, you can just, there's just info here. So this is the final look that we got on this grade. So here it is for my A7 III and Slog 2. This is the film look that we got, that we ended up with as a result. And I think that looks pretty cool. And so you can really you can go super fast and just like tweak all the little things that you want on your footage and come up with something pretty sweet. For the other 2 pieces of footage, I'm going to grade these really quickly and then show you the before and after of transforming like what it looks like with, a Pocket 3 footage, can that get a film look, and also with my iPhone. Here we are. We have finished grading our other pieces of footage. So this is my Pocket 3. This is unreleased footage. I have this Jotaro figure that I have, and look at it. This is raw from the Pocket 3, and this is with Dehancer turned on. So looks pretty sweet. I think the result turned out pretty cool. This is kind of the look I like. I like this kind of warm tone with, oh my God, did I just confirm that I am the cyan and orange person? But I don't know, it just kind of looks cool, and it works for the footage that I have. And here's a little bit different one. So this is my Apple footage, so of this microphone that I have, and that is the Fine K688. I actually did a video on this, so that's what that looks like. All right, so a little bit of a bonus here. The Dehancer team also provided me with a license for their mobile app, and I'm just gonna quickly run through it. It's really neat. You can like load up any images or even videos that you have on your phone. I'm gonna just show you something that I did really quickly here. So this is, oh wow, that's really strong. Okay, so this is kind of like a look that I did on one of my images here. So what's really cool is that you actually have a lot of the same plugins that you have available on the desktop version. So you could check your source, you could use, you know, the exposure comps and stuff like that. So all the sliders, really easy to use. You have different, again, all the different film stocks. See, this is what I wish they had on the desktop version. Like, look, you can scroll through some of the different looks in all the films, and they have a bunch that they have provided here. It's preloaded into the app, and then there's compression, you got expand, and if you want to like disable one, you can just double tap it at the bottom, which is kind of cool. Create these really cool edits of your pictures and just give it a film look, like as if you shot it on film with like a film camera. So that is basically the app, and then you can just like save to your gallery. You can export it straight from your phone. The thing is, the app actually, you actually have to pay for a license for the app separately from the desktop version of this Dehancer app. That can throw people off, and I can see why, because it's like you have to pay again for essentially the same thing. But I think their reasoning is because, you know, it's like it has cost to develop an app by itself, and so it's a different platform, so there's other things, yada yada. Here's my biggest feedback for this plugin. I would love to see a better user experience for previewing the film stock that it comes available with. You cannot scroll through the film stock easily to preview it. You have to select each one by one. And you know how like you can, in your gallery, when you have all your like your stills and power grades and everything, you can kind of quickly view it just by hovering over. Like I wish the developers would just implement something like that for the Dehancer plugin. The quality of life update on that, especially for the price of this app, which I'll talk about really quickly, it would just make more sense, you know? And so if they can do that, awesome. Dehancer team would love that. The other thing that I will note, this plugin is not the most budget friendly, and it runs about like $400 USD for a perpetual license. Now, thankfully, you know, the Dehancer team provided me with a plugin, but if it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have been buying this plugin anytime soon. I would have to save a bit and eventually get it. So if you're just starting out, it could be tough to shell out some money with your already limited budget. So I've held off from buying this plugin for the longest time, but part of me wishes I bought it sooner. I will say it is very much worth every single penny that you would be spending on this plugin. Trust me, you're going to save so much time nailing down the look that you want with this plugin. Time is money, and if you're saving time, you're saving money at the end of it. And if you were to film with actual film, that price tag is just going to keep going up and up and up. And if you want to save even more money, Dehancer actually hooked me up with a discount code for 10% off. And if you want to see where that is, it's like right here. I'll also leave in the description or the comments down below. So ALO10 at checkout for 10% off. And if you use the code, that'll help support me and the channel so I can keep making videos just like this. Okay, so another issue, okay, that I haven't experienced myself, but I know that someone else will run into this. This is a pretty resource intensive application. Okay, this plugin will, if you don't have a powerful computer, but I imagine when you keep stacking the effects like the film grain and everything like that, the halation, the bloom and everything else, and maybe even like a noise reduction on a separate node, you're going to be, it can chug. It can, I imagine that you are going to be running into some slowness. So that's just something to be aware of if you're going to be using this plugin. And that could be an issue for some. But I know that if you go down in the options, you can go from normal to fast or high to slow. So I would just change it to that, and that might help. Now that you've learned how Dehancer has changed the game for me in my color grading process, there's actually one more tool that I've invested in. It's increased my productivity, and I'm telling you, it's streamlined everything for me. I'm a scatterbrain, and so this one thing has just made content creation just so much easier for me, and managing my YouTube channel and growing it from zero, okay, from literally zero to where I am today. And so if you want to see that, it's actually in the video right here. And I'll see you in there, cousin. Stay blessed.